All right, guys, welcome back to the White Noise Podcast. I hope you guys all had a lovely Thanksgiving. I will refuse to comment on whether you should or should not follow guidelines and whether you did or didn't follow guidelines. I think that's personally up to you. Until they pass a law about it, I'm not going to force you to do anything. That's on your conscience and your responsibility. But I do hope you had a good Thanksgiving. Unpopular opinion while we're talking about Thanksgiving, I'm not a big fan of turkey. Are you a big fan of turkey?
I like it. I enjoy it on Thanksgiving itself, but it's not something I would regularly eat outside of the holiday.
I just feel like it's bad chicken, you know?
Bland chicken, but...
I was talking to somebody about this. Okay. I was like, look, when you put a bunch of stuff on it, it's not bad. But then at the same time, if you put that same stuff on chicken, it would taste better. I just think it's like bad chicken. Anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of bland, but it has its purpose once a year.
There is nothing cinema related to Thanksgiving, or we would have done a Thanksgiving episode, so I figured we'd give it a week off. The episode of The Mandalorian was super boring, and it wasn't worth talking about anyway, so we didn't talk about that last week. But this week's episode was a little bit more exciting, I think. What did you think from the get-go?
Honestly,
By the way, spoilers, we're talking about The Mandalorian episode 5. I don't know.
Yeah,
there's nothing else
5.
to talk about in movies, so we talk about The Mandalorian now. This is now The Mandalorian podcast. So, spoilers, go for it.
Honestly, I really enjoyed the episode a lot. I wasn't really expecting much from it, and I didn't realize we'd get Ashoka this... Not early, but I didn't realize she was coming in this episode, but I guess since it's directed by Dave Filoni, we kind of expected that. From the get-go, I loved the whole introduction, and I thought it was done way better than Kylo Ren in the forest in episode 9. I thought that was kind of rushed and sloppy, but this, to me, was so much better looking on the forest landscape, and the way that they all played it out. I say this a lot like a Western, but literally this time like a whole Western town, and the whole hierarchy of their town. It's being taken over by some people, and there's a whole history behind it and the connection to Beskar. And I thought it was really creative the way Dave Filoni was able to really, I've heard this before, but like weave the 3 trilogies together into one episode. I thought it was really clever the way they handled, now that we know what it's called, the Grogu, and different aspects of that and where we're headed, the origin and kind of how this is all going to culminate later in the season.
Yeah. I mean, Ahsoka was cool. She looked better than I actually thought. I agree with you. I think the opening was probably my favorite part of the episode. Like the planet itself, and kind of even the guards and their getup and stuff like that. Like the world was really cool. I don't know if you're feeling. I'm getting really, really tired of the episodic. And I know that people are like, oh, this is the show, so maybe I just don't like the show. I don't know, man. Like for example, at the end, you know, we've seen the things the Mandalorian has had to do to get to this Jedi. Like, he's gone through a lot of shit to get to this Jedi. And he gets to the Jedi, and then the Jedi is like, sorry. Oh, and then he raids a town for the Jedi, too, and kills all these people and does all this. And then the Jedi is like, well, we need to keep pushing the plot forward, so can't help you. And then he's just like cool with it. And I feel like there's a lot of stuff like that where it's like, not only is it really episodic, but it's inconsistently episodic, you know? Like that's not even in his character. Like, nobody would be that cool about it. I'd be like, what the heck? I just traveled like 1,000 miles, lost my ship like 6 different times, did all this stuff, and then you're gonna be like, oh, sorry, you can check out another Jedi. It's like, what? Like, let me send out a beacon and hope a Jedi hears it. You're the Jedi. I found you already. What?
Yeah, my only hope is that they have someone better in store for later. But I get that given the whole arc of Ahsoka, I get why they had to do that because she's been so scarred with the Clone Wars and with Anakin seeing him turn evil. I guess I understand that mentality, but at the same time, I'm like, well, you couldn't make an exception this one time. But if she's that traumatized about it, I understand why she's like, well, I really don't want to train Jedi because I've seen that go wrong so quickly that I'm not ready for it now. I understand that part of it, but
Yeah, I
I'm also like, well, then why
guess.
do you waste the episode trying to like get to that point only to have him take the child again? Because I'll be honest with you, I was so excited. I'm like, oh my god, we're finally gonna give the child to a Jedi and let it have a nice home, and we can go do something else in this universe. But nope, we're gonna keep it.
And also, in the Star Wars universe, if you were in that situation, like, I didn't really understand why the only option was either train him as a Jedi or don't take him at all. Like, you know, just on basic, and at least for me as a dude, I would not be as good at taking care of a baby as a girl just from the get go. Ahsoka's a jet, like they're keepers of the Jedi are more than just like warriors. Like, you don't just have to take somebody under your wing to become the next warrior Jedi. It's, to me, it was like, ooh, stay with bounty hunter or keeper of the peace. Like, what makes more sense? Like, so to me, it was more than just like, oh, you're gonna become the next Jedi. It's like, well, couldn't you just take care of him? Like, she's probably more fit to take care of him than the Mandalorian at this point. So I just don't like that, and I feel like they're breaking the rules of their own universe and their own characters to just push it on to the next episode. And watching it now, I really get the feeling that it's like they're just really rushed to like, okay, let's close up the plot. Let's go. We gotta close up the plot. We gotta finish it by the end of the episode. And I just don't think that's the way to do it. Like, yes, technically there is an overarching story, but every arc in every episode this season has ended. It's like, yes, there's a bigger arc, and yes, every once in a while they show Grand Moff Gideon, and there's the big dun 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 music, and it's like, oh no, what's gonna happen? But like, I don't know. I just think there's so much potential to tell a bigger story, and to me, that's what excites me about a Star Wars TV show, is that it's like, you get these little images in the movies, and this gives us an opportunity to expand on the universe and expand on the stories and tell these big, epic, large scope arcs and stories and follow these characters. And then this show just like actively, like, it's not even like the show kind of just follows the tone. Like, I feel like sometimes this show actively avoids telling any sort of overarching story, and that's what kind of frustrates me.
Yeah, it's kind of the ploy to keep it sort of episodic and keep it running, which I get, but at the same time, I agree there is so much more you could be doing. I think that it's fine for what we have so far, but in the vein of actually expanding, I don't see that happening right now. And I don't know if we're ever gonna get that, honestly, just because the way that we've kind of structured the show with the child is kind of have to follow that instead of actually going to the bigger world of the bounty hunters, which I've honestly wanted to see for years. And I feel like we're getting pieces of that, but we're not really getting the whole shebang. I think we should, but I don't think we're getting there yet.
Well, I mean, it's weird, but I almost think that season 1 was less episodic than this.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about
Definitely.
it, season 1 was like, this is just my business brain, and I'm really cynical, but I have a theory that the reason this season is so episodic is because they realized after season 1 that they didn't really have much to do with the child, and they didn't really know where they were going to take that. And so this season, their focus was to introduce a bunch of new characters or returning characters in live action, like Ahsoka, like Bo-Katan, like Cobb Vanth, and then see who the audience responds to best, and whoever they respond to best, they'll make spin-off shows of. That's the impression I get. Because it's like, ooh, I have a mission, let me disappear. Same with Cara Dune. It's like, ooh, you get this, rebellion medallion. It's like, I don't know. I feel like, and maybe this is just me, I just get the impression that the business and the focus on episodic and the focus on new characters is coming before a good story, and that just bugs me.
Yeah, and I think in some cases like this episode, other than the ending, I love the whole cinematic scope of the episode. I thought it was filmed very well, and the production
Well, it's
value was
cool.
there.
Everything
But
is super. Like, there's nothing
yeah,
about it. Like, it looks great. I just feel like it lacks substance sometimes, and so it's harder for me to care. Like, everything looks awesome. Bo-Katan looks awesome. The lightsaber fight with the staff was super cool. You know, like Ahsoka looked great. The planets, everything, the budget. Like these episodes, I forget these are TV episodes sometimes. Like, they're ridiculously high budget, but it's like you can have all the highest budget and production value in the world, but if I don't care, I don't care.
yeah.
And like, let's face it, what's the Mandalorian's character? Can you explain to me in any detail what his like motivation is?
Other than the child, not really.
But
He's a
even then, he's like,
vagabond.
he's a good guy sometimes, but then also sometimes he murders people to be cool.
Yeah, it doesn't really line up. And then and I'm glad we have two different beliefs of the Mandalorian, which is really cool, old and the new. But at the same time,
I get
together is really tricky.
I have a hard time relating to him. Like, I feel like he's just there. It feels like a video game. Like, it's like, oh, he's just the main guy and you're playing through the video game. Except I don't get to play it, so I'm more bored. Like, when you're in a video game, you get to play it, so that's why it's interesting. But it's like, that's just what's frustrating to me. You know, I like Game of Thrones, even though the ending was disappointing. Like, I like shows like Game of Thrones, and, you know, I talk about Breaking Bad on here all the time. Even Better Call Saul, like the spinoff, you know, like it they're just really well made, and I can watch a lawyer show, you know, Better Call Saul, and I'm more interested in that than The Mandalorian. And it's like, I shouldn't be. The Mandalorian is like laser swords and spaceships, but it's like, I just care more. And I think that's what it comes down to, is it's like, you know, I always try and keep this in mind when you're telling low budget stories, because that's all you have. You don't have the flashiness, but it's like it is about the characters and the story, and even John Wick. Like, John Wick wouldn't work unless you really cared about John Wick. It wouldn't. Like, the reason John Wick works is because they killed his dog and it's cheesy and it pulls on your heartstrings and you're like, screw you, I want you to die. Like, if they just started out, it would be like, it would be dumb. It would be like Fast and Furious. You know what I mean? Like, the reason John Wick is so good is because Keanu Reeves is like actually a good actor, as much as any of us hate to admit it. And so I don't know. As the Mandalorian goes more and more, I'm just more frustrated, because it's like, this is a cool showcase of the Star Wars universe. You know, I feel like it would be a good Star Wars video game. But just because I'm not playing it, and because it's actually a show, I'm frustrated because I feel like it lacks some character, you know?
Yeah, I feel that. In the vein of it being a Western-esque show, I feel like that trope kind of does it in a little bit, to where he really is a lone cowboy, and you don't really have much substance for his character that we're so used to nowadays in television. And everyone
to
around
be
him
fair,
kinda
I
gets
think I
elevated.
could list off some Westerns where they do characters better.
Oh, for sure. But I mean, like the
Like
old
they
school
do the
style.
lone cowboy thing,
Yeah.
but they can still do it where, like, you know, you have a little more of a character. But like you said, I feel like he just kind of does what the plot needs him to do. And
Yeah.
that's really all the impression I get, where it's like, oh, okay, sometimes he's a real good fighter, and then sometimes the Mandalorians show up, and he's like, oh, let me sit back here and let them... I mean, look, I don't want to, like, completely trash the show. There are aspects of the show that are really enjoyable. Just personally, I'm kind of reaching a point where I'm frustrated because I wanted it to go another level, and it's just really not. And, you know, in a weird way, it kind of reminds me a lot more of the Clone Wars. But it's like, I was okay with that when it was a kid's animation. It's a little bit more frustrating when it's like a live action TV show, you know?
Yeah, definitely. You have more potential for it to be something bigger, but it's not hitting that mark yet.
Not yet. I don't know. But what else is new? Is there anything else in movie news? I feel like there's absolutely nothing else to talk about.
Not really. Crudes 2 came out, and drive-ins in some theaters, so there's that.
2 weeks from now, we are watching Fat Man when it comes out on demand. And I want everybody on the podcast to watch. I am the biggest Mel Gibson fan. Controversies aside, whatever. I I am the biggest Mel Gibson fan. I think he is hilarious, and I think he has this aspect of comedy. I can't even describe it. Like his facial comedy, like he has these. He's a lot like Colin Farrell, where he just can make these face expressions that are hysterical, and he doesn't have to say it. I can't even. The facial comedy, is that what it is? I don't even know what it is. He's so funny when he does that. Same with Colin Farrell. I will watch him in anything because he's hysterical. And I think that is just the greatest movie idea ever. For those of you who don't know, it's basically like rated R Santa Claus. It's like Santa Claus meets John Wick. Don't ask me how. Don't ask me why. But it's cool. I'm a fan. Mel Gibson's in a beard. He's cussing. It's going to be violent. It's going to be action-filled. Sounds cool to me.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That's my kind of Christmas movie. But yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. It's a pretty short episode today. We're coming up on the holidays. The real holidays. Thanksgiving's over now. Now we get to go to the fun stuff. I can officially admit that I'm listening to Christmas music.
Nice.
Let's watch some Christmas movies this year, Maybe let's do kind of like Halloween. Let's do some classics. Like, dude, totally real with you. I don't even know if I've seen Home Alone. Like, I've watched the Cinema Sins. I know what happens, but I don't know if I've actually watched the whole movie. So let's find a list. Let's do some Christmas classics. Let's talk about them. Let's have a good time. I am a big fan of enjoying the holidays. I want to drink eggnog lattes and watch all the Home Alones and A Christmas Story and It's a Wonderful Life. I don't know. Have a little bit of fun with it. Tell us what you guys think. If you guys want us to watch something, let us know. I'm really down for anything at this point.
Yeah, there's so many Christmas movies out there over the years that we can get into. Definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. Oh, dude, I almost forgot completely. You know what I have been watching?
What?
I am officially, I don't even know if this makes me more or less white, but somebody told me to start watching Full Metal Alchemist because they said it was a really good anime. Uh-huh. And apparently there's two. There's Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. So it's an anime, by the way, for you guys who don't know. It's on Netflix. So Full Metal Alchemist, they made before the manga was finished, I think. And then they made Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, but apparently they're basically the same thing, except the ending isn't made up. It's like what actually happens in the manga. I don't really know. So people just told me ignore the first one and watch Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. It's the same thing. I really like it. It's super cool. It's like, okay, there's aspects of anime that I'm not a big fan of. They like do the little anime humor stuff, which is like a little bit ridiculous and cartoonish. And I think they do it a little bit too much. But this show is surprisingly mature, dude. Like the violence and the themes and some of the stuff they'll cover in this show is incredible. And it's been super surprising. So if you guys have nothing else to watch, go watch that show. It's super cool. You should start watching it, Kelvin, because I want to start talking to you about it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I've definitely heard about it.
I have too.
And yeah,
but I
haven't actually checked it out.
Yeah, I've never been like a big fan of anime. I've never really gotten into it. But the world for this thing is super cool. It's like like all these kind of magic-based worlds. Sometimes the rules are more or less frustrating. This is like a super cool world, and I feel like the characters are pretty young. They're like 14 or 15, but I think they do a really good job of like capturing that. Like there's some surprisingly like heartfelt moments where it was like, oh my gosh, this character's just a kid. And I thought that was super cool, really like mature, and it's odd because I feel like anime, it seems the genre walks this real interesting line between like kids and adult show, where it's like it has this like surprisingly like immature kind of like childish humor, but then it's like really violent, and it covers like not like really violent, but it's definitely mature. Like it's not a kids show, and it covers these like really serious themes. So it's really interesting. But I am a big fan of that. So if people have other anime suggestions, I think I'm slowly being converted over to anime. So let us know. But all that aside, thank you guys for listening so much. We got a returning guest coming on Thursday, Rachel Hardy. Great musician, just super cool, Canadian, the sweetest. So stay tuned for that. and we'll see you guys next week.